The Abduction of Jack the Ripper by Johnson Davies. Chapter 1. The Collector of Minds. The stars outside Thresh Sintell's quarters pulsed like neurons, cold, ancient, and unknowable. He sat cross-legged in the center of his archive chamber, surrounded by holographic case files suspended in midair. Murderers from across the galaxy flickered before him. The acid-blooded strangler of Oirex 9, the telepathic butcher of the Eleran moons, the sentient plague from the Dusk Nebula. Each one catalogued, dissected, and understood. But tonight, Thresh was restless. He waved a finger, dismissing the galactic files. Instead, he summoned Earth's historical archives, primitive, chaotic, beautiful in its brutality. He scrolled through centuries of human violence until one name stopped him cold. Jack the Ripper. The file was incomplete. No confirmed identity, no motive, no closure, just blood and fog and silence. Thresh leaned forward, eyes glowing with curiosity. A ghost in the data, he murmured. A killer who defied resolution. He tapped into the forensic simulations, reconstructing the Whitechapel crime scenes in full sensory detail. The stench of alley rot, the shrill of police whistles, the echo of footsteps, the surgical precision of the wounds. "Watson," he called. A hatch hissed open. The robot assistant rolled in, his chrome frame gleaming, eyes blinking with anticipation. "Prepare the chronovault," Thresh said. "We're going to 1891. Watson paused. "Another time hunt?" Thresh's voice was low, reverent. "Not just a hunt. A study. I want to meet the mind that eluded an entire species." Outside, the stars shifted. The ship's engines hummed with temporal charge. And somewhere in the past, a man with a scalpel walked through the fog, unaware that justice was coming. Not from Earth, but from the stars. Chapter 2. Botson's Briefing. The chronovault thrummed beneath the ship's hull, its coils glowing with temporal energy. Botson stood at the console, his mechanical fingers dancing across the interface. Time travel was no longer a novelty. It was a precision instrument, and Thresh Sintell wielded it like a blade. Thresh paced the command deck, eyes locked on the swirling hologram of Earth. Whitechapel, 1891. The final known Ripper attack. "We arrive minutes before history records the event." Botson's voice was clipped, efficient. "Victim profile? Female, late 20s, alone. History says she never saw him coming." Botson tilted his head. "And we intend to change that?" Thresh's gaze darkened. "We intend to catch him in the act." "Confirm identity. Extract." Botson paused. "And then?" Thresh turned. "Then we study him. Understand him. Dissect the mind that birthed the myth." The robot hesitated. "You believe he's more than a man?" Thresh's voice dropped to a whisper. "I believe he's a fracture in the moral fabric of sentient life. And I want to know why." The ship's engines roared to life, coordinates locked, temporal shields engaged. Botson activated the cloaking protocols. "Whitechapel awaits." Thresh stepped into the chronovault, his silhouette framed by the swirling vortex of time. "Let's meet the monster Earth couldn't name." With a flash of light and a ripple in history, the ship vanished. Chapter 3. Cloak and Descent. The ship pierced the veil of time like a scalpel through flesh. One moment it hovered in the quantum slipstream. The next it was suspended above 19th century London, cloaked in invisibility, its hull humming with suppressed power. Whitechapel sprawled beneath them, grimy, gaslit, and soaked in misery. The air reeked of coal smoke and desperation. Thresh adjusted his ocular filters to cut through the fog. "Primitive. Perfect," he muttered. Botson scanned the surroundings. Temporal coordinates confirmed. We are precisely 37 minutes before the final recorded Ripper attack. Thresh stepped onto the deployment platform, his coat shimmering with adaptive camouflage. Let's walk among ghosts. They descended into the alleyways, their forms cloaked in refractive shielding. No human eye could see them, but they saw everything. Ragged children huddled near broken lampposts. A drunk sang to himself in a puddle. A constable passed by, oblivious to the predators above. Botson projected a forensic overlay onto the cobblestones. Victim will appear here. Killer approaches from the east. Thresh knelt, brushing his fingers across the stone. This place remembers. Blood leaves echoes. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the mist, a man in a long coat carrying a small case. He moved with surgical precision, eyes locked on a lone woman ahead. Botson whispered, "Target acquired." Thresh's voice was ice. "Let's meet him." They stepped from the shadows, weapons primed, justice humming in their hands. Chapter 4. The Alley of Shadows. The fog thickened like a living thing, curling around lampposts and swallowing sound. Whitechapel's alleys were a maze of soot and silence, and in their heart, history prepared to repeat itself. Thresh and Botson crouched behind a crumbling brick wall, their cloaking fields shimmering faintly. The woman walked alone, her shawl pulled tight, her steps quick but uncertain. She glanced over her shoulder once, twice, but saw nothing. The man followed. He moved with eerie calm, his case tucked beneath one arm, his other hand hidden in his coat. His eyes never left her. Botson's sensors pulsed. Vital signs elevated. Intent confirmed. Thresh raised his beam weapon, calibrated to paralyze without harm. Wait for the moment. Let him reveal himself. The man accelerated, closing the distance. The woman turned a corner, and he lunged. Thresh fired. A burst of violet light struck the man mid-step. He collapsed, rigid and silent, eyes wide with frozen fury. The woman screamed and fled into the night, never knowing she'd been saved by beings not of her world. Thresh and Botson approached the fallen figure. The case had burst open, scalpels, bone saws, blood-stained cloth. Thresh pried the man's mouth open and swabbed the inside of his cheek with a metal probe. He handed the probe to Botson, who mixed the residue into colored beakers. Botson scanned the results. DNA matches all 5 historical victims. This is our man. Thresh knelt beside the killer. Let's see what evil looks like up close. They activated the extraction field. The alley shimmered, then emptied. Jack the Ripper was gone. Chapter 5. The Case Carrier. The confinement chamber was sterile, silent, and utterly alien. Its walls pulsed with faint bioluminescence, designed to soothe most sentient minds. But the man inside, Jack the Ripper, was not most minds. He awoke with a gasp, eyes darting, limbs restrained by invisible force fields. His coat was gone. His case, gone. Only his thoughts remained, sharp and coiled like blades. Thresh observed from behind a translucent barrier, arms folded, expression unreadable. Botson stood beside him, recording neural fluctuations in real time. "He's awake," Botson said. "Cognitive patterns suggest confusion, followed by rapid adaptation. He's already probing for weaknesses." Thresh stepped into the chamber. The man's eyes locked onto him. "Where am I?" "Far from Whitechapel," Thresh replied. "Far from Earth. You were intercepted mid-act. We know who you are." The man smiled faintly. "Do you?" "I've worn many names." Thresh circled him slowly. "You carry surgical tools. You stalk women. You kill with precision. But you leave no identity. Why?" The man shrugged. "Perhaps I'm a surgeon. Perhaps I'm a god. Perhaps I'm just curious." Botson's voice crackled through the chamber. Earth records show no doctor matching your face or fingerprints. You are a ghost. The man leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Then perhaps I'm something more. Thresh paused. You're not more. You're less. A fracture. An error. The man laughed. And yet you came for me. Across time. Across stars. What does that make you? Thresh didn't answer. He simply turned to Botson. Begin the deep scan. Let's see what this warped mind is made of. The chamber dimmed. The hunt had shifted from the alleys of London to the corridors of consciousness. Chapter 6. Beam of Judgment. The interrogation chamber dimmed to a clinical blue. Neural dampeners pulsed in the walls, suppressing aggression and amplifying truth response. Thresh stood across from the killer, arms folded, his gaze sharp as a scalpel. The man, still unnamed, still smiling, sat calmly in the restraint field. You've gone to great lengths for me, he said. I must be special. Thresh didn't blink. You're a specimen. Nothing more. The man leaned forward. Then dissect me. Peel back the layers. See what you find. Botson monitored from the observation deck, feeding historical data into the AI core. No match in Earth's census, medical records, or criminal registries. He's a phantom. Thresh activated the beam grid. A lattice of light scanned the man's neural architecture, mapping trauma, impulse, and memory. The results were anomalous. Your mind is fragmented, Thresh said. Not from damage, from design. The man grinned. I built myself, piece by piece, like I dismantled my victims. Botson's voice crackled through the chamber. He's resisting truth resonance. That's rare. Thresh stepped closer. You enjoy the game. The chase, the fear, but you never needed to kill. The man's smile faded. Needed. Number. Wanted? Always. Thresh narrowed his eyes. Why? The man whispered. Because it makes me feel real. Silence fell. Thresh turned to Botson. Prepare the deep probe. We're going further down the rabbit hole. The killer laughed softly. Careful, detective. If you stare into me too long, you might see yourself. Thresh didn't flinch. I've already looked. And I know the difference. The chamber sealed. The hunt was no longer physical. It was psychological warfare, and Thresh was just getting started. Chapter 7. Identity Protocols. The probe chamber was silent but alive, its walls pulsing with data, its floor humming with neural resonance. Thresh stood at the interface, watching the killer's mind unfold like a corrupted archive. Botson narrated the scan results. Cognitive architecture is non-standard. Memory clusters are broken. Identity markers inconsistent. Thresh frowned. Explain. Botson zoomed in on a neural map. He has memories of surgical training, but no institutional imprint. He recalls London streets, but not his own name. He knows how to kill, but not why. Thresh stepped closer to the containment field. You built yourself, you said. From what? The man smirked. From need, from silence, from the parts no one wanted. Botson's voice sharpened. He's lying. Truth resonance is fluctuating. Thresh activated a secondary scan, one that searched for emotional signatures. The results were chilling. No empathy, Thresh said. No remorse. But no pleasure either. Just compulsion. The man leaned back, eyes gleaming. You're looking for a motive. There isn't one. I am the act, Botson whispered. He's not just a killer. He's an emptiness with hands. Thresh turned to the console. Run a cross-temporal search. See if this pattern exists elsewhere. We may be dealing with a universal anomaly. The chamber dimmed as the search began. Inside the field, the man smiled. "You're not the first to try to understand me. You won't be the last." Thresh didn't respond. He was no longer hunting a man. He was hunting a phenomenon. Chapter 8. Extraction. The deep probe ended in silence. Thresh stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the neural map projected across the chamber wall. It was unlike any he'd seen, fractured, recursive, and eerily self-aware. The killer's mind didn't just resist analysis, it reshaped itself in response. Botson entered quietly. "The probe confirms your hypothesis. He's not just a man. He's a construct of compulsion, a self-made predator." Thresh didn't turn. "And yet he mimics humanity. He walks their streets. He speaks their language. He kills with their tools." Botson paused. "What do we do with him?" Thresh's voice was low. "We extract the essence, strip away the lies, find the origin of the fracture." He entered the chamber again. The killer sat calmly, eyes closed, as if meditating. "You've seen the probe," Thresh said. "You know what we found." The man opened his eyes. "You found a mirror. And you didn't like the reflection." Thresh stepped closer. "You're not a mirror. You're a wound, and I intend to close it." The man smiled. "You think justice is closure, but justice is just another story you tell yourselves." Thresh activated the extraction sequence. The chamber filled with light. Memories, impulses, and identity fragments began to separate, each one catalogued and stored. Botson monitored the process. "We're isolating the core compulsion. It's ancient, possibly pre-human." Thresh's eyes narrowed. "Then it's not just Earth's problem. It's the universe's." The killer screamed, not in pain, but in defiance. "You can erase me, but you'll never understand me." Thresh didn't flinch. "Understanding isn't the goal. Preventing the creation of others like you is." The chamber dimmed. The extraction was complete. Jack the Ripper was no longer a man. He was a file. Chapter 9. The Chamber. The containment chamber was quiet now. The killer sat motionless, stripped of his tools, his memories fractured and catalogued. Yet something remained, an essence untouched by extraction, a presence. Thresh entered alone. The walls shimmered with containment glyphs, designed to suppress psychic interference. Botson monitored remotely, ready to intervene if the subject destabilized. Thresh approached the man, who stared blankly ahead. "You've lost your name," Thresh said. "Your past. Your purpose. What's left?" The man blinked slowly. "The hunger." Thresh circled him. "We've mapped your neural architecture. It's not human, not alien. It's engineered." The man smiled faintly. "I told you." "I built myself." Botson's voice echoed through the chamber. "No external origin detected. No cultural imprint. He is a closed system." Thresh leaned in. "Then you are a rarity. A being of pure compulsion. No trauma. No ideology. Just the act." The man's voice dropped to a whisper. "And you think you can erase that?" Thresh didn't answer. He studied the man's eyes, still sharp, still calculating. "You're not a mystery anymore. You're a warning." The man laughed. "To whom?" "To every species that believes evil must have a reason." Silence fell. Thresh turned to leave. "Prepare the final protocol." Botson responded instantly. Memory purge confirmed. Full identity wipe. No residual trace. The man stood slowly, unresisting. "Will I dream?" Thresh paused. "Not of blood. Not of names. Not of anything." The chamber sealed. The purge began. And the myth of Jack the Ripper unraveled into silence. Chapter 10. The Doctor's Lie. The man stood in silence, his eyes vacant, his posture slack. The purge had worked. No name, no memory, no hunger. Thresh watched from the command deck as Botsson prepared the descent protocols. Neural wipe complete, no residual identity. He's stable. Stable, Thresh echoed. But hollow. Botsson hesitated. We could keep him. Study the residual husk. Thresh shook his head. We've studied enough. He's no longer a threat, but he's also no longer a man. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, cloaked in silence. Below, the gates of a Victorian mental institution loomed, cold, gray, and forgotten by time. Records showed the facility would admit a nameless man that night. He would never leave. He would never kill again. Thresh and Botsson hovered above the courtyard, lowering the man gently into the shadows. He wandered toward the gate, confused but calm. A nurse spotted him. Another stray, she muttered, guiding him inside. Thresh watched from above. History will record nothing. No trial, no closure. Just a man who forgot himself. Botsson turned to him. Is that justice? Thresh didn't answer. He stared into the fog, into the place where myth had once walked. Then he whispered, It's containment. The ship rose into the sky, vanishing into the stars, and below, Jack the Ripper became just another patient, silent, lost, and finally, harmless. Chapter 11. The Archive. Thresh Sintell stood in the archive of anomalies, surrounded by suspended minds, each one a killer, a mystery, a rupture in the moral fabric of sentient life. The chamber was quiet, save for the soft hum of containment fields and the occasional flicker of a memory loop. Botsson approached, his servos whispering. The Ripper file is sealed. Neural map, behavioral diagnostics, post-purge scans, all complete. Thresh didn't respond immediately. He was staring at the holographic imprint of the killer's mind, a lattice of compulsion, recursive logic, and emotional void. It was unlike anything he'd seen. Not born, not made, just emerged. He was a myth, Thresh said finally, but myths don't bleed. He did. Botsson tilted his head. Do you believe he was unique? Thresh turned. No, I believe he was a symptom, a pattern, and Earth was just the first victim. He placed the file into a sealed vault, labeled evil, unresolved. It joined others, entities that defied explanation, that whispered of something older than morality. Botsson dimmed the lights. Another hunt complete. Thresh stared into the stars beyond the viewport. Another silence preserved, but not solved. Chapter 12. Into the Rift. The chrono vault pulsed with fresh coordinates. A distress signal had reached them from the colony orbiting Jilan 7, a place known for its silence, its isolation, and its dreams. Thresh reviewed the transmission. 7 deaths, no wounds, no signs of struggle, victims found smiling. Botsson ran the data. Neural scans show dream state termination. All victims died in REM sleep. Thresh narrowed his eyes. And the killer? Botsson hesitated. No physical presence. Just a voice, described as a whisper inside the stars. Thresh activated the vault. Same compulsion. Different mask. Botsson locked the coordinates. Temporal signature matches the Ripper's neural pattern. But it's evolved. The ship roared to life, bending space and time. As the stars blurred into streaks, Thresh whispered, Evil doesn't die. It migrates. Botsson turned. Then we follow. The ship vanished into the rift, chasing a killer who didn't walk, didn't touch, didn't bleed, but whispered. And somewhere in the dreamscape of a forgotten colony, a new killer waited to be unmasked. The end? Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.